Merlin Unchained, Network Magic, Show IP Interface Brief. Hey everybody, my name is John Capobianco, and if you've been following along, I have this real nice Django project called Merlin Unchained, where I'm getting network state information from pyATS, and I'm bringing it into a database and then presenting it with views. I started with 3 commands. I have a lot of commands. And now that I'm satisfied with some base functionality across these commands, APIs and search and get the latest version and several things that you're going to see here, I thought I would try to start migrating all of my other commands over into this main Merlin project. So let's take a look at Show IP Interface Brief. Probably one of my favorite commands, easily one of the better commands on a layer 3 device like a router to get those layer 3 interfaces, their IP address, their label, and whether or not they're up or down. It's also a nice small data set as a beginner getting started if you're trying to learn from this project and learn from my videos. This is a really nice place to start because of the simplicity of the JSON data. Speaking of which, let's take a look at that. So this is the Show IP Interface Brief command parsed by pyATS. And we get this nice JSON structure back of all of the interfaces. Now I'm going to highlight something when we get to that point. But basically the interfaces have the interface, right, ETH15 or VLAN 100, the interface status, and the IP address. So really it's simply 3 fields that we'd like to put into our database. So let's look at what the model looks like. And I always start with the model. So what we have is Show IP Interface Brief as a class. And we have 3 fields that we put in every record: the timestamp and the operating system in pyATS. And then there are our 1, 2, 3 fields: the interface, the status, and the IP address. We then want to return these values as a function, and we have to make sure that we have the matching values in this array here. Okay? So now how do we get it from this model into the database? Well, I have the commands up here. What we run is a Python manage py make migrations Merlin, the name of my app. And it goes ahead and creates a model for Show IP Interface Brief. Then we run simply the migrate command, and it migrates and applies that. And how can you check that it's been migrated? You go to the admin panel. First, we have to go into our admin panel, our admin py file, and register that new model, Show IP Interface Brief. So now in my admin panel, I have to turn the server on, excuse me. What we have is the Show IP Interface Brief. What's going on here? Oh, I know, I'm missing a view. Hang on, I'm halfway through the development. I can't show you that. Well, anyway, we get the model into our database. So now how do we populate it? Well, this is where we have the Merlin magic, the job file, the pyATS job file, and the Show IP Interface Brief. Now, this is important, and I have to call up the model to show you something here. What I want is to go get Show IP Interface Brief parsed into JSON, and if that's not empty, then for each interface in the JSON, let me try to get the side-by-side JSON here, right? For each of these interfaces, then go ahead and set up right up here, I import that model. Well, that model has methods, and what I want is the Show IP Interface Brief, and then inside of the brackets, all of those different values. Their model key, and then the JSON that we have to get and stuff it into the key. Once it's stuffed into this variable, we then simply do .save, and that writes the data to the database. Now, what is this logic doing? We have to look at the model here And I'd like to thank Jeremy Schulman, my mentor out there from Major League Baseball, who, I tried to show him this earlier and tried to do it on the fly, and I had some struggles, basically because of this. The structure of an physical interface, or a loopback interface, say, is different than a VLAN ID. Notice that loopback 1, it doesn't have the key VLAN ID. And this interface doesn't have the key interface status. So I just check if VLAN is in the interface key name, then get into the VLAN ID to go get the interface status or the IP address. Else, the interface status is right at the parent. And that worked. So where did I leave off? Well, now I'm in my URLs. How do I present these things? And I was just working on adding the URLs, which is what's next. Okay, so I've sort of half got there. I got the database working, and now together, let's try to present that data. And I'm going to simply copy. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to copy the show version set, right? Because I want the same views for show IP interface brief. Now let me put a breakpoint in so that I know where exactly to start editing so I don't get this wrong, right? So this is now show IP int brief. I mean, I could say interface here. Maybe that's better for the URL, show IP interface brief. Right, so that's really all we need to change there. And now under each view, which we haven't made yet, right, I'm going to do the same thing here. And actually what I'm going to do is make it a little easier and find and replace this with show IP int brief. Okay, I'm all done. Now that is just when people go directly to the URL and a year, a month, a day, or the operating system, or the alias of the device. Okay, that's what the views, these HTML, views. So now what I've done is I've made a templates folder, HTML, and what we're going to need are our templates. But let's go chronologically, right? What's next are all of these views. And I really hope to achieve the same thing with some copy paste. So let's save that and head into our views. Now I have my HTML views here. I have to import my new show IP int brief model from my .models. And now I'm going to, again, copy paste. I'm going to find all of the show versions and I'm going to paste them here. And I'm going to put a breakpoint in so I know where I am. And I'm going to take, show version. And it should already have show IP interface brief. So now here I have to change these, but I'll come back to that. Let's just change these for now. And then let's get rid of our spaces here now that they're renamed. And then here, show version, we have to get this path right now, is now show IP interface brief. Let's just make sure that I put the caps in there. I did. Okay, that's good. And I need to update all my paths. Whoops. And now I need to make each of these templates to render those views. Right? Follow so far? So, and to do that, I'm going to cheat again. I'm going to take show version. I'm going to copy the whole folder and make this show IP int brief. Now, I have to make sure that's my path in my view. Well, that's the path. That's the path to render. Where's the template called from? I think I need to match this up so that just to be sure, let's not get that wrong. And then for each of these commands, right, I'm going to start with alias and make this show IP int brief. There goes my VPN connection. So I'm going to need to make a new, the timing, eh? Isn't that funny? My sandbox just timed out. I'll need to make a new sandbox. It takes a few minutes to shut it down. But anyway, back to what we were doing. Show IP interface brief alias archive. So this is show IP interface brief results for show IP interface brief results for. Now, I get different fields back for show version depending on the operating system, but I don't believe that's the case for this data. So what I'm going to do is cheat. I've learned my lesson, and I'm going to delete this table and the for loop. And now I'm going to go back to my main Merlin project and go grab my HTML template from show IP interface brief. Show IP interface brief. And what I have is this table all ready to go. And I just need the table. And I paste that in. And then I have to change this for loop. I've already done all this logic now. I need to get rid of one of these for loops. And I'm just going to say for interface in. And what did we return in our view? See, I'm going to change that too. Yeah, it says vlist here. Excuse me. Show IP interface brief. Let me change that vlist to interface list. And save my view. And then that was interface list. And I have to change okay, I see I have an else still here. And I need to change all of this to just be interface dot. Okay, that should do it. That should do it. Interface IP status. And now I have the device name. Let me add that. pyATS alias. Interface dot pyATS alias. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is take this table, like take this, and this is for alias. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one here. Show IP int brief for the day, and I'm going to take, right, we just put what we just had in here, and let's take the year, month, day there, put it there, and this is show IP interface brief. And again, this is a lot of copy and paste, but we're just going to do the same thing here. And this is month now. IP int brief month. Get rid of the day. Make that int IP interface brief. And actually what I'm going to do is just take this whole thing for a year. Just get rid of the month. Get rid of the month. Ah, too much too much. Get rid of the month. And then we have the year archive here. No, OS archive. So I'm going to take year. And let me just take the table. Almost there, almost there. Thanks for sticking with me. I know it's a lot of copy paste, but we got to get these templates set up. And this is show IP interface brief. Now in theory, once I have these all set up, our server should start again. And we should be able to go into these views. I'm not going to be able to run the code, but I already have one set of data in there to display. All right, no issues. That's a really good start. Now my admin panel should be back up, and here was what I wanted to show you earlier. IP interface brief, and I have one set of records in here. So now let's go to show IP interface brief 2021. No. What am I doing wrong here? I forgot what my own URLs are. URLs. Show IP interface brief year. Oh, I see. I have 2 year archives here. That's probably not helping. Do I have 2 year archives there too? Yeah, that's not good. Let me fix that. I don't know that that's the problem. It doesn't look like I'm returning any data. So there's a mistake somewhere. What about operating system? Okay, so I'm not returning data. It looks like I'm close, but it's got to be in these templates then for interface and interface list. Is that what I'm passing back? Where are my views? Here are my views. So this is archived by year. Oh, version list right there. Sorry, everybody. At least I knew where to look. That is empty. Now let's try it. Excuse me. There we go. Now, hang on. I'm getting show version back. We're close, but it's still not right. How come I have show version information? Because I didn't replace it here. Everybody at home is probably caught on to that. And you see how it's grayed out here? It means I haven't invoked it. Yeah, that's okay. We learn by doing it like this. That's why we try things. So that, and that. Now I should have the right set of data. Hey, there we go. There we go. And that's by operating system. Let's try 2021. Very good. And let's try 09. Okay, let's try 08. It should be empty. Okay, good. 09. All right, so those are our views. So let me just take a break point here. If you need a break, this is a good time to take a break. There's much more to finish. That's our I don't want to say basic, but those are our HTML views through inline slashes. Now we want to run this on demand. We want to search it, and we want to add it as the latest version of it. We want to add it to the API. Lots of stuff still to do here. If you need a break, just pause the video and come back, and maybe rewind it if you need to absorb anything. Wasn't perfect, but it's welcome to Merlin. It's not perfect, but it works, and it's getting there. So take a break, come back. Let's tackle the next thing in line. All right. So I'm going to keep the train rolling here, and let's take a look at what we want to do next in the code. So now I'm pretty much done with the old repo. I have it into the database now. And what are our next? We could look at this several ways. We could look at the URLs and see what URLs need to be built. We could look at the templates and see what templates need to be built. Or we could look at the views and see what views need to be built. It's really up to you at this point how you want to proceed. I sort of let URLs guide me. So I have show version, show IP interface brief. Now, alphabetically, let's do the right thing here for our users so that they're not jumping all over the place. And what I have are the learn functions up top. And let me move that up after admin to include the search. Okay, so then, right, we have our on-demand, and we need to get the on-demand. Now to do that, I need to spin up a sandbox. So let's really take a break because John's got to get his DevNet sandbox up and running, and then we'll come back and I'll pick up from here. If you didn't take a break earlier, take a break now because I'm taking a break. I need to get the sandbox up. All right, we'll see you soon. Okay, so as the sandbox spins up, we can keep going here. Let's make our on-demand. I'm not going to be able to test it till the sandbox is up, but this is going to take a couple minutes. Well, we'll see how long it takes to write. So we're going to copy our on-demand show version, put it in alphabetical order, and what we're going to make it is, right, show IP int brief. And let me turn on my screen sharing here in inside of Discord. Okay, so we're going to make this on-demand show IP interface brief result, and then here we're going to change this to IP int brief on-demand as a view, right, as a view, and we're going to call this show IP int brief. So that is our URL. Now let's go tackle the view. And again, I'm going to already have a view here for the on-demand buttons. And I'm going to copy my on-demand button for show version. And I'm going to change this into show IP int brief. And this runs the show IP int brief job against that test bed. And we're going to render show IP int brief. Okay, so our function is done in our view. Now we need to deal with, right, this page, our on-demand page. So there's no reason for us not to take that name there and bring it into our templates, on-demand, and let's make a new file. And what we're going to do is take, right, there's really nothing to this page. We just need the page as a placeholder there. So now in the on-demand, where the real magic happens is a couple places. It's in the on-demand center. So what we have to add is, right, what we're going to do is take this row for show version and paste it in here as a row for show IP interface brief. Now, primary warning. Now I have to change that to primary now. And this is going to be the show IP int brief button. This is going to show IP interface brief. And we have to give the spinner a unique name as well. IP int brief spinner. Okay. So now we need to put that into our static main.js, and we're going to split the screen, and we're going to make a constant, and the constant is going to be show IP int brief spinner box, and what we get is that element, excuse me, not there, views. No, not the view. So excuse me, I'm in the wrong place. The HTML page, yeah. Not that one though, the on-demand one. Yeah, and it's called show IP interface brief button. But we need the spinner here. So show IP interface brief spinner. And then we're going to copy our show version button JavaScript action, replace it with the IP interface brief button, replace this with show IP int brief result. I wonder where does this result come from? I gotta go look into the on-demand page. I missed the URL, I believe. No, show IP interface brief result. That's right, that's right. Show IP interface brief result. Okay, and then the spinner class is our spinner. No, excuse me, it's the constant right here. This constant needs to go here and here. Now I believe our on-demand is ready to go. Let's just see if it looks like it's ready to go. The server's running. And let's go into our on-demand center. And we have a new button here. Now I'm not going to be able to click that until I have the sandbox up. Let me check my email and get the VPN up. And we'll try the button together. I'll be right back. Okay, the VPN's up. Let's take a look. And I really hope this fires. And so let me get the Ubuntu here. And what should happen is we should go learn the latest show IP interface brief. I don't see the spinner. Hang on. Yeah, so I'm missing, my button's not working. Let me try. Are these buttons working? Yeah, see the spinner there, and VLAN's going to go get the VLAN. So that's missing. Something is missing in the button here. On demand. Show IP interface brief. Show IP interface brief button. Show IP interface brief spinner, and it's not visible. So look at the Merlin. Show IP interface brief button. That should be the name of it. Show IP interface brief button. Click. Get on demand show IP interface brief results, and that comes from the URL, and we've already validated that. Oh, right there, show version spinner. Haha, I copied the wrong thing. See, anyway, you're probably at home saying, John, you're doing the wrong button, man, and you screwed it up because now I got version. Yeah. I see. That's okay. That's okay. It really is okay. Happy little mistakes, right? So now let's take a look here and let's get this up and get interface brief. Still not firing as a button. Let me make sure it's not cached. Let me try it in a different browser. On demand. Yeah, see, it's just a caching thing. Anyway, you see, sometimes you have to just think a little outside the box. And then there we go. There's the latest show IP interface brief. And how do we know that it worked? Right? How do we know that it worked, John? I don't know how we know it worked. If we do show IP interface brief 2021, you see, that's how I know it works. Now I'm missing a timestamp. It looks like here. Interface is putting in the whole thing here. I don't want that. Why is that happening? In my presentation layer, I'm presenting the wrong thing here. This should be just the interface. Yeah, let me take a look. See, that's a presentation thing though. That's not a problem with, so that's going to be in my HTML views. And that's under year. Let's fix that. And I'm saying interface. Ah, see, John, it's something simple. I don't want the interface. I want interface.interface. That's an easy mistake to make. And let's fix all of our views. Because I'm not looking for the iteration of interface. I'm looking for the key value interface. And let's make these a little prettier too. And that's just some bad copy. There we go. All right, so let's save them all. And let's take a look. There we go. There we go. All right, so we're getting real close, and the on-demand button is working. So let's shut some of this down, and let's go back to the code. Okay, so that was great. So then again, what did we start with? URLs. So we've handled on-demand, and we've handled the HTML views. So let's try, I mean, we'll just plow through them in order, right? Let's do changes next. And is anybody hopping in here yet? Not yet. That's all right. Let's do changes next. So what we're going to do is take our changes, and we're going to do very, same approach. IP int interface let's be consistently inconsistent here. Show IP int brief changes, show IP int brief changes, show IP int brief changes. Now, what do we need? Well, it's right there. We need a view called show IP int brief changes. So we're going to hop in our views. We're going to go find our changes, our change center, our diffs, which are near the bottom. Latest changes. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to take, now this is going to take a little bit more time, but not really because there's only 3 fields. So we're going to take show version changes, paste it in here. And we're going to be very careful here, and we're going to make this show IP int brief changes. Latest timestamp can stay. This here we need to change. Definitely need to change to our method. That's what I got wrong last time in my find replace. So I'm going to find that and replace it with that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We want the latest timestamp. Now the filter, we don't want time at all, and I'll come back to that. Now the job we want to run, we've got to be careful. We want to learn IP int brief. Timestamp is fine. We've already updated that. We don't know what our fields are yet. We do and we don't. Now this is going to be, let's call this interface removals, interface additions, which means I need to say interface removals and interface additions, and I need to change this to, right, let's not say current version, let's say current interfaces, latest interfaces, and we take current interfaces, and we take latest interfaces, and that is our diff view. So now we're going to go into our templates, changes, all changes, like our main changes here, and we're going to make a new row. Make a new row. Excuse me, I'm a little bit finicky about my HTML templates. Show IP interface brief, which takes us to changes. Show IP int brief changes. Is that my URL? Let me make sure. Show IP interface brief changes. Yep, sure is. And we'll give it a button ID in case we ever want to use a button ID. IP int brief changes button, and then get show IP interface brief changes. That is our view for our main changes. Now let's go ahead and let's copy show version. I'll show you what we're going to do here. Control C, Control V, F2. And this is going to be show IP int brief changes.html. And we're just going to take this table out. We're going to leave this if else. Merlin has not detected any IP interface brief configuration removals. I see. Yeah, this is a pretty difficult one to use here. Right up to here. And then I'm going to say if, from my view, right, if interface removals, meaning if there's anything been removed, no, if, yeah, I got rid of a little too much there. This should be if interface removals. Else, and this should be if interface additions else additions. All right, so I have my skeleton. If there's additions, show the additions, else there's no additions. And if there's removals, I need my header row. Not quite there yet. All right, so now I just go simply get my HTML for IP interface brief. Doesn't really matter which one, I'm just taking the table. And now I plug that in here. All right, so if it's detected configuration additions, show the table. Otherwise, give a message. If it's detected removals, show the removals. Okay, so now I have my changes button, I have my changes view, model. I think I'm ready to go with changes. Let's fire up a new browser. And this is the changes center. There's my new button. Let's go ahead and see. Now this should show no changes. Okay, that did the wrong thing. Version changes. I've got something wrong. Something's not right there in my template. No, not this template, this template. Show IP interface brief changes. Didn't run the job. OS system pyATS run job. Learn. Oh, geez, John. Show IP interface brief job. Huh. I'm sorry. Thanks for sticking with me there. And let's try it now. There we go. Now it should say there's no changes to IP interface brief. And while that's running, let's go ahead and putty in and make some changes to test this out. This is an important one for me. And I got the wrong template. Saying version, or is that just my presentation here? Where's my... Why does it keep saying version? Aha, that's why. Sorry, everybody. Show IP interface brief. There we go. I am so sorry. Let's go back and do it again. And while it's doing that, again, let me putty in. Okay, now, oh, okay, so I'm closer there. I'm calling something wrong here, though. Show IP interface brief. Template does not exist. Under changes, what did I call it? I see I have changes. I'm real close. Keep dancing around it, I'm sorry. There we go. And that's gonna run, and let's make sure that rolls over. And then what I'm gonna do is add some interfaces. Okay, there we go, that's good. So conf t int loopback 100 description Merlin loopback IP address 192.168.100.100.255.255.2550 no shut, and let's do int VLAN 200 description Merlin VLAN IP address 192.168.200.200 VLAN 200 name Merlin VLAN int VLAN 200 no shut. Okay, so now cool, right? Let's go back. I just hit refresh here. I could have hit the button. I accidentally hit refresh, which fires the job anyway. So let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens if I push the button. Should have detected some changes there. Now it's not going to detect changes because there are no changes from the last run. Let me make sure my logic looks okay here. I'm saying, what am I passing back? Version removals. Oh, John, we didn't finish. We didn't finish up the work here. I'm going to leave this in warts and all. You'll see I made a mistake here. I never finished these fields. So it is working. There's no difference because pyATS hasn't changed. But we didn't fill in the whole model. I'm so sorry, everybody. That's okay. Let's just keep going here. Happy little mistakes, right? Happy little mistakes. And now you're going to see it work. So let me get rid of those VLANs. Yeah, let me just get rid of those interfaces. No int loopback 100, no int VLAN 200. I'll come back and make those, but let's just capture it. But first I need to put in, under my show IP interface brief, in our fields here, we need to put in, OS interface status. This is just me forgetting. I'm trying to explain, and I got a little ahead of myself. An IP address. That's it. That's all I missed. Let's copy that in. You might learn more from seeing the mistake anyway, right? So let's go ahead and, all right, I don't want to fix that one. I need it here. And save that. Now, okay, now let's try it. Let's try it with the full data set, John. Let's see what happens with the real code. Okay, so it's going to run. Now, I hope there's no differences, or this might show that I've actually removed those VLANs. We'll see. Okay, so my table is empty. It did pick up the removal, which is good, but the table is not presenting, meaning my for loop is not working. I say interface removals, interface additions. So here, see? Simple little things. I have lists instead of removals. Of course it's going to be empty. No, this one's additions. Otherwise I'll flip them and that would really screw me up. Okay, all right. Now save. Let's see here. All right, everybody. Now it's not going to detect any changes. I think we can agree on that. And then let's add a couple things and see if we can do this. Thanks again for your patience and sticking around. If you're laughing at me, feel free to laugh. That's okay. I'm learning. I know at least I'm spotting my mistakes as I go, which is a good sign. So now int loopback 100 description Merlin loopback IP address 192.168.100.100.255.255.255.0 no shut. Int VLAN 200 IP address 192.168.200.200 description Merlin VLAN no shut. All right, let's see. I should have two additions now. Two new VLANs have been added, or interfaces, excuse me. And there we go, a loopback interface, a VLAN interface added. Powerful, right? Now I want to highlight something very, very important. This is not just if I add a whole new interface or remove a whole interface. Let me show you what I mean. This is critical and it's so exciting to me. Really exciting stuff. So let me just get the state and get it to say no changes. I'll show you. I'll start from a blank slate here. And it should say that there's no changes. Okay, so now let me just simply do this. No shut. I'm going to no shut loopback 100. Now let's go get it. I didn't add anything or remove anything in terms of a full interface, but I did change one interface from down to up. Well, look. I'm going to do this. I mean, maybe this is not obvious to you. Let me show you how obvious this is. Right? Look at. Admin up, admin down. Admin down has been removed and admin up has been added. Right? What if I change the IP address? What if something really bad happens and some engineer comes in here and decides to change the IP address? Or some automation script runs and in the automation script somebody got the IP wrong and now you can't get to the internet, your whole company's down, or the firewall's offline, or your load balancer's shot, or whatever happens because you got the IP wrong. How do you know what changed out of thousands of interfaces? Merlin will tell you. Look at it, it's right there. I'm going to do this again because I like this. Look at it. It has changed from, right? This has been added, 100. This has been removed, 101. There's your problem. Change that IP back, bring your network back up to speed. Incredible, right? So let's pause. That's a big stretch of time. Catch our breath, rewind, go find something else, put a breakpoint in. We have some more to do. I want to get the CSV files. I want to get the latest version. There's still some more. I still need to build the API out for Show IP Interface Brief. I'll be back. Just take a break. I'm going to take a break myself. Talk to you real soon. Okay, everybody, hope you took a break. I'm back. Let's continue and look at what our next URL is. So we're going to go into our URLs, and we've handled on demand, good. We've handled changes, good. The API, which means we have to move into the API URLs. No reason why we shouldn't do that one next. So we're going to jump into the Merlin API, and it's pretty straightforward because this is the API caller, right? So we're going to copy this here, and we're going to bring it up here. So we're going to need a new serializer and we need to bring in our show IP int brief, which we're going to call. But for now, let's finish our class here. So show IP int brief view set from show IP int brief objects all order by timestamp. Serializer class is going to be called show IP int brief serializer, which we will bring in up here. And let's go make that serializer. Okay, so we're going to bring open our serializers file, and we're going to serialize, and let's copy a small one because we're renaming it anyway. Oh, I see, I called it parse show version serializer. Let me check what. Okay, so that's parse show IP interface brief serializer. And our model, we need to bring our model in. Which we haven't called yet, and it's going to be called here. And I'm not sure why I didn't serialize the pyATS learn VRF in the model. Let's touch that up while we're here. We should serialize that as well. And in here, we're going to definitely bring that in, pyATS alias. And again, let's refer to our model, because that's what we're actually serializing here. And this is show IP interface brief. So we need interface instead of VRF. Interface status instead of address family, and IP address, and then there is no route distinguisher. Okay, so our serializer looks good, our view looks good. Now let's make the URL, and our URL is going to be the router, and we're going to register this as show IP interface brief. And the view set is show IP int brief view set. And let's make sure that that is correct. Yes. Okay. Now on our API, I just want to make sure, I haven't done one of these in a while. Our URLs, we include that, and if we just go to /API, okay, let's try it. Is our server okay? Our server's okay. So let's go to /API, and there is our new IP interface brief API. Oh, I had a typo. Wouldn't you believe that? Would you believe that? A typo, and it's right here. And let's fix the typo. But we're pretty close. Let's try it again. There we go. There's our API. Now, how do we know it really works? Well, we'll call it up in Postman and take a look. I just love working with APIs, and I love that we can make our own API. So let's go to the API in Postman and get it, and then we'll try this link and get that. And there is the JSON. Wonderful. The full JSON set. Okay, great. So that was easy enough, right? We just made our API. There's a couple more views. If you want to take another break, it would be a good time. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep moving ahead. All right. So let me switch my view back. I just about made a streaming mistake there. There we go. Okay, so now what is our next view? And now actually I have all this code. Let's get a check-in here. So this is API, let's write is show IP int brief, and so far we have on-demand HTML and API working. All right, so let's just stash that so if something goes wrong from this point forward. Oh, why am I in this? I don't mean to be in get all functions. I meant to be inside of. Let me just check my repo here real quick. Excuse me. I wasn't paying attention to the branch I was in. I thought I had a working branch here. Oh, I don't have a branch. Geez, that's too bad. What was my branch I'm trying to push into? Get all functions. All right, let me just make that. Get all functions, just to get the code stashed. And let's get that up there. That's an unfortunate name, but I should have this as IP interface brief. So let me just get rid of this mistake here real quick in my get problem. And I'm going to put it in here. This is actually show IP in brief HTML API and on demand. And let's get rid of this branch and clean up our work here. This is not exactly ideal. And that's fine. Delete that branch. And now let's go make a new branch called IP in brief. And let's quickly switch over to main. Oh, it's all these caches. I have to fix that. I'll add a, excuse me, sorry for the delay and the silence. I have to make a get ignore file and start ignoring these cache files. I should do that right now. I'll have to look that up. I don't off the top of my head, but I'll make a get ignore and start ignoring these cache files for sure. So where was I at? I'm in the main. Let me change now into the IP interface brief branch that we made before I proceed. And let's get back on track here. Sorry about the get problems. Right. Okay, so we've handled the Merlin API. And back in our Merlin view URLs, okay, so on demand's done. Search, right? We haven't done search yet. That's actually the next one here. We should have done that before changes in API. But now we have to hop in and do similar thing in our search. It has its own views, and it has its own URLs, and it has serializers. That's the API, excuse me. Views and URLs. And as you can see, this is searching everything, right? So this is adding on to an existing query set. And I already have everything else done. I don't need to do anything but add on to this query set, which is going to be very easy because, again, it's just a view into our model. So show IP int brief, and we're going to take that, and we're going to put here, we're going to put a comma, and go into objects filter, and then we're going to take these two, and we're going to take times. Do I do timestamp? No, I can't search timestamp because it's not a text field, right? And then it's very simple. What do we need? Well, you're right. You're maybe a step ahead of me here. We need the model. So there's our IP interface brief. We already have these two fields. So we say Q, which is an advanced OR. Think of that as these all being ORs. Search for what's in the search box in the alias or the OS or the interface or the interface status. Right? Or the IP address. And then that's all inside of the brackets there. And I'm going to leave the brackets open like that. I believe that's all we need to do for search. So let's check it out. And search. Now, what can we search for that would only be inside of, I think, an IP address, right? Because we've done, well, let's just try it. Let's just try it. Show IP in brief. Let's look for this IP. Oh, I see. Search has no object. Show IP interface brief in views on line 19. So I've missed something simple here. Maybe not something simple, but line 19. Show IP interface brief. Object filter. Has no object is what it's saying, right? So I have to see, what am I, is this the right, that's from the models. Maybe I don't have the model name. Show IP in brief. Show IP in brief. Oh, objects. John, geez, haha. Sorry, thank you again. At home, you're probably saying, John, it's right there. It's an S. Let's try this again. Let me refresh the page and look for that IP. Okay, there's no search results. There should be that IP. What, did I miss something in the results maybe? Hang on everybody, hang on. I've missed the template for the search. Yeah, I haven't done the presentation view yet of the results page. Aha, very simple, John, very simple. So let's find the appropriate place. You're probably at home saying, it's right there, John, like what are you doing, man? Here we go. So let's get the, whatever, alias archive. We're going to take this table and we need to go into that presentation view and there's VLAN VR version, show version hits. So what I want to do is put, aha, I see, and I'm actually going to rearrange something. See how it's .2 here? Let's make that .3 and let's rearrange our view because I sort of want to put them, I don't want, again, for ease of use for our users, I'm going to do this. And put them in the right order alphabetically there. And now I need to put in, I lost my HTML. So then we're going to say if object list.to, meaning it, right? Whoops. I'm going to show IP interface brief hits. And that if, okay, now a couple little mistakes aside, let's try it again. 172. Oh, I know what it is. I'm almost there. See, interface list, I need to make that inside of object list 2. There we go. Look at, so I found that IP in every record. Right, if I search the database, I know that that IP was on those interfaces. Pretty cool, right? So now I'm going to take a break and make a separate little video to hype up this search against IP interface brief, because now we can search for interfaces at the layer 3 level. IPs, subnet masks, state up and down. It's going to be really neat. Just wait. I'll see you in a minute. Hey everybody, I'm back. My name's John Capobianco, and I want to show you just how— something simple, the show IP interface brief command, when you move that into a model view controller design pattern with Django, using pyATS to bridge the gap between the CLI output and the JavaScript object notation, it's incredible. Differentials are amazing. Search is equally amazing. Wait till you'll see this. How many times have you wanted just to search for an IP address against your network and tell me where it is, what interface it's on? Search for the state up or down and find out how many interfaces are up or down. Search for the name of a VLAN, a loopback, and get the details. Whatever you want. Infrastructure as search. Let's quickly take a look at this. So I'm on the search page. There's a preview. Let's search for this IP, right? Who has this IP? Well, we found it in Show IP Interface Brief. And it's on VLAN 100, which is up. Right? Well, can you tell me every interface that's up from Show IP Interface Brief? Sure can. All these interfaces, and they've all been up. Right? Ooh, look, 200 was up. 200 is gone. At some point, that VLAN was removed. Right? Well, what about that IP address? We can look for that IP and see what's going on. Where did it go? What was it on? What was on that interface? And it's only in 3 records. Right? The other thing is I can look for, say, VLAN 200, or let's just say 200, and see, I'm getting it now in Learn VLAN hits. You have a VLAN 200. Oh, I see. It's because it's not searching on, it's searching on the full key VLAN. I understand. I see. Versus, right, VLAN 200. I see. All right. Still pretty powerful. Do I have any interfaces down? Right? Yeah, Loopback 100 was down a couple of times. Pretty powerful stuff, right? So keep using your imagination. That's IP Interface Brief. One command, building up our database for searches and views and API calls. Just incredible. Thanks again. Much more to come. Stay safe. Okay, everybody, let's get back into our lists and check out what the next URLs are. Still a couple little things left to do. They're very big things in terms of end user functionality, but I'm just not sure what we have left off the top of my head. So let's take a quick peek here. We have done our changes. The diffs are done. Okay, so CSV, but let's go by our URLs. And okay, so search done, on demand done, changes done, API done, latest. Latest is a really good one. So let's do latest, which is the latest view of the records. So based on the last timestamp, all of the IP interface brief, and that's going to be show IP int brief latest. Okay, so we need to do our view. Definitely need to do a view for this, which is going to be in our views here, and we're going to find our latest section, which is right here, and we are going to copy the show version latest and do show IP int brief latest. Now we need to change these two here. Let's go make sure we get the right method here, or function. And where were we? Latest, show version, and this is going to be, let's change this to be interface list. Back over here as interface list, latest, show IP interface brief, IP int brief latest. Now we need this file. Definitely need that inside of our templates latest. What we're going to do is copy the show version here. rename it IP int brief. No. And we're just renaming fest, right? IP int brief. And we want to go get just our latest, or our HTML. So we can steal that from our HTML interface brief, grab this table. Show IP interface brief results. Show IP interface brief results. And this now has to become from the view interface list. Okay, that's already says interface list. So that should be our latest view. Now, let me go to the latest here, in our latest center, and add the row. Oh, okay. I was going to say, hang on, I made a mistake, and I did make a mistake. That should say show version. Now that one should say show IP interface brief. Okay, so I think we're ready to go for latest. Let me make sure the VPN tunnel is up. Yep, still all up. Still up, trusty old VPN. So now I should be able to go to our latest center. And there is our learn latest show IP interface brief. And I don't even need the VPN up, it just goes against the database. So there we go, that's the latest. Now how can I confirm that this is working? Well, that's easy. I had a loopback 100 on here. No, hang on. Right, so I can do conf t no int lo100. Hang on, this is... I see, it doesn't refresh the database, it just gets the latest version. So I need to do this in concert. I'm sorry, yeah, it's getting late. I go to my on-demand center and go get the IP interface brief, because I've noed out that loopback 100, and now the spinner is done, and now if I go get my latest versions, loopback 100 is gone. Perfect, so latest is working. Again, little checkpoint for a break if you want to take one. And we're going to move on to try to finish up some more views. All right, we'll see you soon. Hey, you still with me? Okay, let's keep going. Let's see what left. I know the CSV files are left, but I just, let's see where we're at with our views. Our URLs, rather, not our views. URLs. All right, so we've done latest. Here we go, CSVs. Okay, now CSVs have a couple of different views. There's the download and then there's the latest. Now that is for the download button. All right, so let's start there. Let's take it easy here. I'm going to copy the download and put that one in. And that's going to be show, and let's IP int brief CSV download name show IP int brief CSV. Okay, now there's a latest to get the latest records, and then there's our learn functions and their latest. So we have to touch this view for sure, and we have to touch 2 more views to get the latest record and the full set as CSV files, okay? So let's not skip over anything, but what we're going to do is copy, and it looks like there's actually 3 URLs, right? Yes, there are. Okay, this is a little more advanced than what we've done. We're going to copy in those 3 and not make any mistakes here. And this is going to be the full show IP interface brief, and the view is show IP int brief CSV. Okay, now we need the download and the latest, and the views are going to be IP int brief download, which the name is IP int brief CSV, and then we're going to do show IP int brief CSV download latest, and this is show IP int brief CSV latest. Okay. Okay, so we have to go to our views in order, and the first view is the CSV latest. And then we have these other views. So let's hop into our views and let's go to our CSV section, which is here. And we have the CSV page, the Learn CSV page, the Learn CSV download, and the Learn CSV latest. Okay, so that's what we're going to copy, are those 3 for show version. I'm going to pad this quite a bit so we don't make any mistakes. And I am going to replace that with show IP int brief 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then, and I might pause the video because there's only 3. Never mind. This one is small. So we have to render show version. Got to get rid of this. Show IP interface brief. And where else am I rendering anything? Anywhere? No, but I do need to go get this model name and put it in there and there and there. Okay, so now my header row is going to be, and I'm not going to put the operating system, the pyATS operating system, in the CSV file. What I'm going to put is the interface. And now remember, this is our header row inside of the CSV file. So we can put whatever we want here. Interface status, IP address. Okay, and then we're going to write, now these have to match. I keep doing that. So we want interface status, IP address. And now instead of calling this versions, we're going to call this, let's just call it interfaces. And this is going to be for interface in interfaces, write the interface. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. I don't need the model anymore, except it's going to be with a filter. And I don't want to call this show version all. I want to call this show IP interface brief all. I believe everything else looks okay there. This is going to be show. Oh, I got something wrong here. I'm calling them the same thing. Did I do that mistake everywhere? Let me fix this. I like to fix things as I go. No, here I did though. That should be latest. That should be latest. Did I make the mistake here too? Yes. Latest. Okay, and that needs to be show IP interface brief latest. Now we're going to cheat, right? We have the same row. This is all the same. And that should be it for the CSV views, I think. You see, I haven't missed anything. What's under this parent CSV view? CSV HTML. We're going to have to take a look. I think it's other buttons. So now let's look at our, speaking of HTML, right? Now it's time to jump into our templates. So CSV templates, we're going to copy show version and call it show IP interface brief. And this becomes show IP in brief CSV, and let's just update this one. CSV file for show IP interface brief, CSV files for show IP interface brief, all records, latest records, and this becomes show IP interface, no, show IP int brief CSV, show IP int brief CSV latest, and then under our CSV I'm not quite sure. Let's take a look here. I may have not used the same, whoops, CSV. Oh, geez, excuse me. CSV. Okay, and there we go. We have our CSV center with our new IP interface brief. Now this is pretty cool, I gotta admit. I'm gonna download this one, and can I open this with, yeah, let me just do this. So this is the one I just downloaded. Let's open it with VS Code and check it out. It is the full database, all the VLANs. It's even got their timestamp in here, right? Pretty cool stuff. So I could search on, let's say, you know, just the loopback. Let me just select all and do the loopback. And I can see that it was down a couple times at this time. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so now what's the other button do? Well, maybe I don't want the full set. Maybe I'm in a hurry and I just want to know what the latest records are. Same idea. Let's open up the latest And it's already pre-filtered for me. It's only the latest set of records. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So that wraps up our journey with IP Interface Brief. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I really hope you're enjoying this technology. I know I'm really having a lot of fun with this. And feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, John_Capobianco. Find me on automateyournetwork.ca. Find me at github.com/automateyournetwork. Find me on WebEx, on Discord, on Slack, Zoom, Teams. Reach out. Let's connect. All right. Stay safe and happy searching, APIing, filtering, latest version, on demand, everything you want with the IP Interface Brief command. All right. Take care.